Well, you might be able to pick up Jordan Mason or Devin Singletary or Chris Rodriguez. You might go for Adonai Mitchell, or maybe Garrett Wilson is there. Maybe Mike Evans is on your waiver wire, and he might be playing this week. We welcome you to Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM. Make it legendary. Week 14 waiver wire. Week 14 is here. And the FFT Open playoffs are starting. So, by the way, if you are not in the top 4 in your FFT Open division, please do not make any transactions or I will rip my eyeballs out. Dave Richard, Jamey Eisenberg. Good morning, Dave. Big week here. A lot on the line. Fun time of year. How we doing?
I'm doing all right. It is definitely an interesting waiver wire week, and anybody that's in the playoff hunt in their fantasy leagues should be very interested in what's out there.
I think it's a really good waiver wire week, Jamey, especially compared to last week.
Last week was actually good. When I first sat down to write the story, I was like, "Ew, this sucks," and then I was like, "Oh, this is actually great." The receivers turned out to be good. Tight ends are good again, and we had a couple running backs emerge that could be good. Certainly, if you extend the parameters of where we draw the line. I always enjoy when I see other sites post on Twitter X. Who would you rather pick up this weekend? Christian McCaffrey or Jordan Mason? Like, that's not fair. But we have a few guys in the shallow leagues that could be interesting as well if they're available.
Well, Jordan Mason is 53% rostered on Sleeper. And it's usually Sleeper, Yahoo, ESPN are usually pretty similar. I'm just looking this up now. Jordan Mason is on ESPN. Will you just hurry up? Thank you. 53% roster on ESPN. I won't even look up Yahoo, but so we'll definitely talk about the shallow guys. In fact, why don't we do that just right now, real quick? There are a lot of guys like Chris Godwin and Mason and Alec Pierce, Christian Watson, who are rostered in more than 65% of leagues on CBS, but many of those guys are going to be more widely available on ESPN, on Yahoo, on Sleeper. So if you include all of those, Jamey, who would the top priorities be?
You got to look at Jordan Mason with Aaron Jones potentially out. He averaged, I believe it was 13 PPR points per game in the 4 games that he started in place of Jones. You mentioned Alec Pierce. Clearly, he's been great in the latter half of the season so far. Christian Watson, 2 of his last 3 games have been great. You got Trevor Lawrence, Jacoby Brissett still in that range at quarterbacks. So a little bit better than the group that we're going to talk about. And tight end, I know Kyle Pitts is in there. I'll have it.
I'll tell you, I Kincaid against the Bengals if he plays this week. Don't know if he will, but
I think the fact that he practiced on a limited basis twice last week is a very good sign. And he's probably like, I don't want to face the Steelers. I'll come back next week for the Bengals. It'll be fun.
It will be fun.
Yeah, he'd be a must-start guy easily.
Yeah. All right, Dave, I'm going to let you go first then with the top 3 waiver wire priorities for the players that we typically talk about. Who would you go with?
If it's for just week 14, Chris Rodriguez is still at the top of the list, 54% available. He's followed by Brenton Strange. And I don't have a wide receiver in my top 2 because there are so many wide receivers that are interesting. The supply is pretty good. Jaden Higgins is my favorite. He's available in 49% of leagues. And that would be my top 3 for just this week. You only need to worry about week 14. You're not thinking about the future, but if you are thinking about the future, I think Mike Evans has to top the list, 55% available on CBS, and he's an IR stash until he comes back.
All right, I'm going to get to Jamey in just one second, but Chris Rodriguez, I'm surprised he's only 46% rostered, but it is feeling a little lucky, right? I mean, he gets pretty much no catches.
Right. That's true.
11 carries, and he scored the touchdown. He's playing well, but he gets Minnesota. They're still pretty good against running backs. I guess the Giants, that's great. But yeah, I don't know. Is that setting you up for a trap here with Chris Rodriguez?
I don't think it's a trap. I think it's just about getting running back depth, or you're desperate at running back, and this is the best of what's available. It's position scarcity for him to be at the top of the list. It's not about talent. If you're looking for a flex, yeah, I'd probably go Higgins over Rodriguez if it's just strictly for a flex spot on a fantasy team, especially if it's PPR.
Okay, Jamey, who are your top 3 priorities?
Mike Evans, and it's not close, would be number 1. Greg Dortch would be number 2. And then Isaac Tesla would be number 3.
Oh man. Okay, so you went all wide receivers there. Mike.
Yeah, and the latter two specifically for Week 14 because they're looking like they're going to be in pretty prominent spots.
Slight issue with Dortch. Obviously, Marvin Harrison's got this heel injury.
He's got to sit. Yep.
If he sits, then Dortch is great. I agree.
I hope so. 2 big games against San Francisco and Jacksonville, but he's got the Rams this week and then Houston. So competition steps up a little bit here and Brissett too, right? For the Cardinals passing game. Do the Rams scare you at all as a matchup?
I mean, it's not as ideal as it was the last 2 games for Dortch, throwing out the week 13 game against Tampa Bay because Harrison played. So no, it's not a slam dunk. He's going to be awesome, but you're talking about 4 teams on a bye, and I'm sure when you start to look at the rankings, I know for me, it's not pretty with some of the injuries and some of the players we're talking about. So I think when you look at the receivers, for example, and I agree, Higgins should be added. I'm surprised he's only at 51% rostered at this point after what he's done over the last month. We also are seeing clearly, with teams out of playoff contention that they stop paying attention in their leagues. So I'm sure that's part of it. But you have Higgins, you have Adonai Mitchell, you have Devon Vele, you have guys that have, started to perform well lately and getting targets. And I think when fantasy managers look at it and they say, okay, do I take the guy in Mitchell who just had this monster game? Do I take the guy in Vele who just had this monster game? Do I take the guy that Higgins who has a pretty solid floor, but we know he's not the number 1 guy in his own team, where at least in Mitchell's case, he could be. And in Vele's case, he may get more targets than Higgins based on what he's shown the last 2 weeks. Like for me, I'm looking at who has the most upside, and Dortch showed us what his upside is. He scored over 16 PPR points in each of the 2 games that he played without Harrison. And in the case of Tesla, it's much more of a reach because we haven't seen him have any more than 2 targets in a game. But we are talking about Detroit's offense against Dallas in what's probably going to be the highest scoring game of the week on paper. And I like that upside potential. So I'll take the chance for 1 week, so if we're going on Dave's, suggestion of just week 14, like I'll take Dortch and Tesla over the field. If we're going for who's going to help me win my league, Mike Evans is number 1 and it's not close.
There's one other guy that not even a consideration in CBS leagues, basically, but he is 64% rostered on Sleeper, 70% rostered on ESPN, 82% rostered on Yahoo. He's Michael Wilson. So if Michael Wilson is out there, that would be a huge priority. But I think he's like 95% rostered.
Yeah, and if we want to extend it a little bit, I know you didn't give Dave this option, but you want to extend this a little bit, Jordan Mason should be the number 1 player to add if he's available because of what his chances are. And then I think you also got to look at Zonovan Knight. If Trey Benson doesn't return, again, same situation taking on the Rams, but he's scored a touchdown in 3 straight games. He's been over 13 PPR points in 3 straight games. Clearly he's their favored running back. Michael Carter's going to get touches as well, and he's worth adding also. I know we'll talk about him. But I think if we're looking at, different sites, those 2 running backs, for me, much better than Chris Rodriguez and, guys that you should be picking up and potentially starting this week.
Right. It's just the high rostership on CBS that keeps them from being ahead of Chris Rodriguez. I agree with you. How about another name to throw in there, but it's long-term. It's not this week. Chuba Hubbard, who's only 27% available on CBS. I'm sure it's higher on other sites.
Yeah. Now, if we are looking ahead with the numbers that we typically deal with, Devin Singletary may be the lead, the running back for the Giants potentially.
Sure.
We don't know. Available. We don't know what Tyrone Tracy's injury, the extent of Tyrone Tracy's injury, and so I added this late last night to the story which was published yesterday. I put him second behind Rodriguez just because if you need somebody for this week, you're not going to be able to use Singletary. But if you're in the playoffs, I would just skip past Chris Rodriguez and I'd go get Devin Singletary first.
I agree.
Yeah, it's a great call. Singletary only 39% rostered, and he's scored double-digit PPR fantasy points in 2 of his last 3 games, and could say he might be running better than Tyrone Tracy. I mean, he was certainly last night, and he gets Washington coming out of the bye, so that's good. It's not so easy after that, but yeah, Singletary.
It's not horrible. I mean, and then it's Minnesota, and then it's Las Vegas, so it's not.
Yeah, it's not as
I'm
easy.
I'm not scared of any of those matchups.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I don't know how many people are going to, look, you're in the fantasy playoffs. It's the semifinals. You're probably not starting him without hesitation. You're starting him with hesitation against the Vikings. But the other 2 games, you're probably starting him if you need a running back.
And Jordan Mason against Washington is very appealing this week. He's 72% rostered. When he was out, when Jones was out earlier, it was Carson Wentz with Jordan Mason, but still you do get a decent amount of running back carries in the McCarthy games. And the only issue is Aaron Jones is apparently day-to-day, so we don't know that Aaron Jones is actually going to miss this upcoming game. All right, so those are some of the names to know, whether it's Chris Rodriguez, Brenton Strange, Jaden Higgins, Dalton Schultz, I'm sure is a good option as well. Mike Evans, Greg Dortch, Isaac Tesla. Let me talk to you about Evans real quick here because, 45% rostered for a guy who has been so good, but in his first 3 games, there was no Chris Godwin. He scored 10.1, 10.6, 13.3 fantasy points. Now I give him a pass because he's faced AJ Terrell, Derek Stingley, and Sauce Gardner, but he's coming back to a crowded receiving core. Are we worried that he might be fool's gold, Dave, on Mike Evans?
You can't rule it out because he didn't get off to a great start. We don't know what he'll be like when he does come back, but it's a lot easier to pick up Mike Evans and put him on your bench. And then if you need him during the fantasy playoffs, you'll have more confidence starting him. Going back to Jamie's point about Devin Singletary. Okay, the only way you'll feel good about starting Devin Singletary in the fantasy playoffs, where it's win or go home, is if he's the only guy in New York's backfield. It's a really good matchup, and you lean on that. You'd rather have Mike Evans because you know about the pedigree, the track record. Hopefully the quarterback play gets a little bit better. Hopefully Tampa's in a bunch of shootouts and Mike Evans gets 7+ targets. But picking him up and throwing him on your IR or putting him even on your bench just seems like the easiest move you can make if your team is already ticketed or you think it'll be ticketed to the fantasy playoffs, i.e. you don't need somebody to replace Amon-Ra St. Brown this week, or you've been streaming wide receivers and you want to move on from John Mechie or somebody else that you picked up last week who didn't come through.
You're forgetting the best thing about Mike Evans. Let's just say he doesn't play this week and he comes back next week.
Don't even.
He's 860 yards away from another 1,000-yard season. So he's going to average 200+ yards per game in his final 4. I mean, it's going to be the most incredible thing we've ever seen.
That is so funny. Yeah. And this Mike Evans roster percentage just shows me that you don't have enough IR spots in your leagues. Okay. When I'm the commissioner of a league, I give 5 IR spots. And it might sound excessive, but those can fill up pretty quickly.
No, that's excessive.
It's not excessive. There's no reason why Mike Evans should be on waivers. And
what number do you give, Jamie, if 5 is excessive?
2. It's really the most incredible thing that you, who is like the most stringent commissioner in the history of commissioners, are so carefree with your IR spots.
Not carefree at all. First of all, I think Jamie's lying. I think he gives more than 2.
Nope.
Yes, 5 in the FFT league. Let's go to the Superflex league. I believe we have 5 in that one too.
No, he doesn't in the FFT or in the Superflex league because I had to drop Joe Burrow.
How many do we get in that league?
2.
Oh, that's a terrible league. You made him drop Joe Burrow in a Superflex.
I didn't make him do anything, but I picked up Joe Burrow because he did.
All right, listen, we're gonna take a break.
Nice to have Joe Burrow going into the playoffs.
I'm gonna update everybody on our on voting, but let me tell you that it's time to bring that playoff energy on BetMGM to your pro football bets. This pro football boost pack from BetMGM gives you 3 ways to boost your payout on a winning bet. Just log into your BetMGM account to receive your boost pack, and then place any pro football bet and apply one of the tokens. Make sure to bet up to the minimum stake, odds, and legs specified on the token. If your boosted bet hits, you'll score a bigger payout. From opening kickoffs to game-winning drives, this Pro Football Boost Pack is your ticket to unforgettable moments this season. Don't wait on the sidelines. Join the action with BetMGM. All right, let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back with your news and notes and much more on FFT.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
You could say that at this point of the season, FAB doesn't matter, but there is actually a lot of FAB strategy, Fabagy that we could look at going into week 14. And the first thing I would say is, if you don't need a player and you're in the playoffs, don't waste money. Don't waste FAB dollars. So be a bully if you can when the actual fantasy playoffs start, and you can just get all the players you want if you have the most money. So be a little judicious. That being said, if Mike Evans is out there, go ahead and spend.
I'll give you an example, different league style, but I saved the most money going into the week 14 stretch run in our guillotine league, and Devon Achane just became available. So I just got a text from somebody in the league, how much are you going to spend on Achane? And I know that 175 is the next highest amount of money. So I said, I'm going to spend 176 just to make sure I get him.
Thank you for bringing that up. I've seen people spend all their FAB on a player they really want, when all you need to do is spend $1 more than the next,
check
who has the next most.
Yeah, check what everybody else's budget is.
It's the Price is Right rule.
All right, so if we were going to give quick FAB advice, Jamey, what would it be for this week?
On these players, I think you said it. It's one of those scenarios of, if there's a player out there that you think is a difference maker. So let's start with the teams at the top. If you have a bye and you don't need anybody for this week, you look at Mike Evans, you look at Devin Singletary, you overlook Chris Rodriguez, you overlook Dortch and Tesla and Higgins and any of the other receivers that you think just may be okay. You're looking for league winning type of guys. And so I know for me, with the teams that I'm confident are going to the playoffs, I'm going to just try and manage this week unless there's a seeding situation that I'm trying to do. But, again, looking at who is going to be impactful in weeks 15 and beyond. So if you look at the column, and we'll talk about this, I'm sure when we get to the running backs, like I just put almost all the prominent handcuffs in there of guys to go get on your roster. So like if you've been holding out hope for, let's say, Tyjae Spears, and I know he's not the best example because he would still be decent if Tony Pollard got hurt, but you saw what Ray Davis just did against the Steelers. You know what he did in the one game that he played for James Cook last year. You know what that offense is. Like Ray Davis is a league winner. Tyjae Spears is maybe a flex. So if that makes sense, the type of guys that you're looking to handcuff or keep on your bench, so if you have those type of players out there, and again, it's case by case, but you have now Ollie Gordon and Keaton Mitchell and, obviously Brian Robinson, those type of players that are available that if an injury, Blake Corum, an injury occurs, they're going to win your league. So I know you asked about FAB, so I'm sorry. But in the case of FAB, check the other league, the rest of your league and what their budget is. And then just keep an eye on what you still may need in the final couple of weeks, because you don't want to obviously leave yourself short because you just overspent in week 14. But to me, Evans is the prize. I would spend, maybe up to half of what you have left at the minimum to make sure you get him.
Okay. So
the quarterback's not so much, Rodriguez, I don't think is going to cost you very much because we've been saying his name since before their bye week, so we're 2 or 3 weeks into this of mentioning Chris Rodriguez. Singletary, this is your favorite thing because people will look at the projected stats and he's not going to be listed. And so don't forget about Devin Singletary when you make your waiver moves, because he's going to have no stats for being on a bye.
Would it be just easier to mention the players that we would spend more than 2% of our original FAB on as we roll through the show? Like, I agree with you, Mike Evans. I don't know how much remaining FAB everybody has left, but I don't know if I want to spend, 40% of my original FAB on a guy who I don't know when he's coming back. I don't know how good he'll be when he does come back. But there really are only a handful of players I think will be in demand in FAB leagues, and I'm talking north of 5% of OG budgets.
Yeah.
So when we talk about players today, we should probably mention which ones. Well, I mean, to me, Evans qualifies. I think you'll see people spend up for Adonai Mitchell because of the game that he had. I don't know if he's probably worth it just to have if you need a wide receiver. I don't know if they're going to do that for Tesla, maybe for Strange. Who else have we talked about? Not for Rodriguez, probably not for Singletary, maybe Chuba, and certainly Mason if they're out there. But as we go along, I'll if a name comes up, I'll say, yeah, that's a guy who's more than 5%.
Okay. All right. Well, that is a little discussion about Fabagy, which Amateur Hour on our chat says Fabagy is the worst thing I've ever heard, ever.
And he would know because it's amateur hour.
Yes, good point. All right. Excuse me. FFT Open starts, the playoffs start today. So if you're in the FFT Open and you look at the standings, I haven't set the playoff matchups yet. I will. If you're one of the first 4 names listed, that means you made the playoffs. If you have the same record as one of the first 4 listed and you're not top 4, that means you didn't make the playoffs by virtue of tiebreaker, which in this case would be total points. So please, for the love of Pete, do not make any ad drops if you have not made the playoffs. And the playoffs work like this in the FFT Open. The top 4 seeds advance. The number 1 seed has a bye this week. 2, 3, and 4, you're just going to set a lineup, make your ad drops, do whatever you can. Highest scoring team from 2, 3, 4 seeds this week moves on to week 15 to face the 1 seed. And the 1 seed versus that player versus that team in week 15, if you win that, you win your division. The Dave division, the Jamey division, the Adam division, whatever it is, you win the division. 24 division winners will compete in week 16. And I'm sorry, I can't remember if we went with 12 or 8 advancing to the finals in week 17. It's in the rules. It's not like I'm going to make it up. There's a document with the written rules. I can probably find that now. But anyway, you'll set your lineup, and then either 12 or 8 will advance, and then you'll set your lineup again in week 17, and whoever wins that wins the FFT Open. And I will tell you how many people advance in a moment. Also, we have advanced to, speaking of advancing, we have advanced to the semifinals or the Final Four, I guess we should call it, in the 64.com, best sports talk radio / podcast in America. We are up against the Tony Kornheiser show at the 64.com. I don't think
Nobody knows who that is.
Yeah, right. Who's that? I don't think voting has opened yet. So for those of you in the chat who said you voted, you are lying, but that's okay. So I'll let you know when voting opens. Do we know when it opens? It starts today. Yeah, it starts today at some point. But I don't think it's open. So just go to the 64.com and vote for us. Okay.
All right. So some of the suggestions I have for you if we win. You're going to streak for 64 seconds.
Okay, that's not happening.
You can do it in your house.
No. I have too many windows.
All right. You're going to streak for 64 seconds. You're going to eat 64 slices of pizza in a week. You're going to tell Dan 64 dad jokes.
That we can do.
I've been giving you a bunch. You are going to, what was the other one I said? Oh, there it is. You're going to let me say shiitake 64 times on air.
Okay.
And you're going to watch Die Hard 64 times on Christmas.
Okay. That's physically impossible. The pizza one is the most appealing. I'd want to do it, but I think it'd be pretty irresponsible. News and notes. Justin Herbert.
Not you have to show Thomas's creation as well. That was
all right. We'll show it. Justin Herbert has a broken bone. He had surgery yesterday. Is non-throwing hand. And how much confidence you can have in Justin Herbert if he starts?
Oh my God. Yeah, you have to get all these tattoos if we win, Adam.
Oh man.
This is your future.
How much confidence are you going to have in Justin Herbert if he starts? Anyway, if I have Justin Herbert and he's going to start, I should be probably looking for other options, right?
You have to. I mean, it's not only just that he's dealing with a hand injury. Like if he was perfectly fine, you're talking about facing the Eagles on extended rest after a loss. With that offensive line still being a mess. Like this has got disaster written all over it for Justin Herbert. So I almost put him in the drop list of quarterbacks just because the rest of their schedule is brutal as well. I would imagine, though, if you saw the list of the players that we're going to add and Justin Herbert was available, you'd be adding Justin Herbert over those guys. So not easy. I wouldn't be comfortable starting him in one quarterback leagues this week.
His next 2 matchups are the Eagles and the Chiefs. I don't know that I would even. Maybe I'm just too down on him, but I'm not sure I would pick him up. But JJ McCarthy.
3 straight games under 20 fantasy points, or 4 straight games.
Yeah. As I mentioned on Beyond the Box Score yesterday, though, it was different this time. They actually were running a normal professional offense. It was not him getting rid of the ball super quick and being on his back.
The Raiders.
Yeah. JJ McCarthy expected back this week. Not set in stone, but looking good. Jaden Daniels uncertain for this week. Minnesota is playing Washington. Shadur Sanders is going to start. Tyrone Tracy's got a hip injury. Aaron Jones, shoulder. Kyron Williams, ankle, but he appears to be okay. Amon-Ra St. Brown, ankle. They're playing Thursday against Dallas. Khalif Raymond was also listed as a DNP, did not practice on Monday. So Tesla, Tom Kennedy, they have an opportunity. Mike Evans could play this week. Parker Washington hip. Drake London is day-to-day. He might be able to get back this week against Seattle. T. Higgins is still in the concussion protocol. Marvin Harrison Jr. heel injury. We actually have some pretty significant wide receiver injuries this week, unfortunately, with St. Brown, London, Higgins, Marvin Harrison Jr. We'll keep an eye on all of those. I don't think there's any really tight end injuries to know about unless I'm crazy. There are a lot of Kincaid, right. Kincaid, we're hoping gets back. The Vikings are beat up on the offensive line. The Patriots are beat up, but they're going into their bye. The Chiefs are beat up on their offensive line. The Cowboys left tackle Tyler Guyton missed practice or was listed as did not practice. The Browns, they're facing Tennessee, which is great, but they'll be doing it without Wyatt Teller, their right guard, and maybe tackle Jack Conklin. And defensively, Sauce Gardner's going to miss some time. It doesn't look like he's going on IR. Lions lost another defensive back, but they could be getting their safety Kirby Joseph back. Defensive tackle Devontae Wyatt for Green Bay. He's out for the season, and they've been really good against the run. That could be a big deal for them not having him. They get Chicago this week, and Chicago is a pretty good run team. Okay, top three at each position. Jamey, who are the top three quarterbacks?
Buckle up. We got Marcus Mariota would be the number one guy, just based on what he's done. Body of work, 4 of 6 games, over 20 fantasy points in place of Jaden Daniels. I have Tyrod Taylor second and Tyler Shuck third. So, again, working under the numbers that we typically do, under 65%. If Trevor Lawrence is available, I'd still go get him. If Jacoby Brissett's available, I'd still start him this week, even with the matchup against the Rams. But Mariota against Minnesota, Tyrod against the Dolphins, and Shuck against the Bucs.
Brissett would be number one.
I have Brissett number one, yes, of that group.
Okay, over Lawrence. Dave, running backs, top 3 running backs.
Well, this is if it's at the threshold, so we're not including the players that are available in shallow leagues. But Chris Rodriguez is at the top. Devin Singletary, close second. You can flip them if you don't need a running back for week 14. And then it's gross after that. It's Michael Carter. It's Blake Corum. It's 8 PPR point, Tyjae Spears.
Okay, I'll just put handcuffs. But yeah, Jordan Mason would be number one, right?
I mean, if he was available, sure.
Well, it's interesting to say I don't need anyone this week. Do I go with Jordan Mason or Devin Singletary? What's your thought there?
I think I'd go Singletary because it sounds like Aaron Jones could be back. And if Aaron Jones comes back, the worst thing you could do is spend a bunch of fab or use a high waiver priority on somebody who you then don't have any confidence in starting. It's one of the reasons why I didn't have Greg Dortch at the top of the list this week, because if Marvin Harrison comes back, he's useless. Same thing with Jordan Mason. If you spend fab on him and Aaron Jones is okay, I'm not going to feel good about starting Jordan Mason. So give me Singletary, especially if it's long-term.
Okay, so quarterbacks are Marcus Mariota against Minnesota, which is a tough matchup. Tyrod Taylor against the Dolphins. And sorry, refresh my memory. Who does Tyler Shuck get?
He gets the Bucs.
Bucs and Tampa Bay. Good matchup for him. Chris Rodriguez, Devin Singletary, he's on a bye, and then get some handcuffs. Jordan Mason, though, against Washington would be...
Don't forget Zonovan Knight, too. He's just above the numbers that we talk about, 67%.
He gets the Rams.
Yeah, I'd rather have Knight than Rodriguez, easily.
Okay. All right, Jamey, top 3 wide receivers.
Yeah, for me, Evans is 1. I have Dortch second, and then Tesla third. So, again, in the case of the latter 2, looking at the injuries, and most likely it's a 1-week situation because we don't know how long Harrison's going to be out, and the reports are that St. Brown will miss this week's game, but hoping to return next week. So just great situations for both. Dortch, you've already seen it, and for Tesla, great matchup, and hopefully gets a target bump. So I like the setup for those 2 guys if you can't use Evans for this week. And there's still a chance that Evans plays this week. It's not necessarily a completely he's not completely been ruled out yet.
A lot of tough calls at wide receiver because you look at Tesla, and St. Brown got hurt pretty early in that game. Tesla ran a bunch of routes. You got 2 targets.
Almost all of them.
Yeah, but it's facing Dallas. I mean, they're number 1 in terms of fantasy points allowed, or they're number 32 to wide receivers. So it's the best matchup there is. I mean, he was outshined by Tom Kennedy, though, so that's tough. And then you've got like Chris Godwin out there. Yeah, go ahead.
He ran a lot of cardio. He was almost their clear out guy.
And
we
call that Pearsalling.
He was Pearsalling for sure. And he wasn't even the first read on the touchdown that he had. And it's weird that he's the clear out guy because he's not, I don't know where he ranks on the team in terms of speed, but he's more of like a good utility receiver than someone who's going to get open because he's fast. And so the hope is, all right, it's a great matchup. Detroit's going to have to throw a lot. Tesla is clearly going to play. Maybe they give him more opportunities because Amon-Ra St. Brown is out and they have a week to actually game plan for it. But he makes me nervous to put as a high priority this week at wide receiver. Dortch easily ahead of him. For me, Higgins is ahead of him. Adonai Mitchell is ahead of him. If you can find Chris Godwin, this is another player that's available in like 32% of CBS leagues. I put him ahead of Tesla. I hesitate a little bit with Devon Vele, and I might not put him ahead of Tesla, but we should talk about Devon Vele at some point on this show because he looked amazing for New Orleans last week. So Tesla has a good opportunity. He had a great opportunity last week, and he just didn't come through, and so I'm a little nervous that he could just end up being a guy who plays a lot and doesn't get a lot of targets.
All right, what we'll do today is we won't spend much time on the Giants-Patriots game. We'll definitely save time toward the end of the show, unless you want to get into it now. I mean, we could just let's get into it now, because wide receiver is tough, and I think that you can make, this is the same thing last week. In fact, it's the same thing a lot of weeks. We have a lot of guys that Jamey's going to put an order out there in his waiver wire column, and it's a very debatable order. You can make cases for and against these guys. Like Dave, I know you were watching the Devon Vele tape, and he really jumped out at you. And Vele has how many targets in his last 2 games? He has 15 targets in his last 2 games facing the Bucs. They've been a little leaky in the secondary. Adonai Mitchell has 19 targets in his last 2 games. Jaden Higgins is a solid double-digit PPR fantasy point guy pretty much every week now, except when he faced Denver. Obviously, there's Dortch that Jamey's made the case for, Tesla. So, yeah, I mean, Dave, do you want to give your order? I'll give you the names, all right? So, let's say Evans is 1.
Evans
Jamey
will be
goes,
1.
Jamey
Assuming
goes
you don't
Dortch,
need a guy this week.
Yeah, Dortch 2, Tesla 3, Higgins, Jaden Reed is on there. Adonai Mitchell, Devon Vele, Andre Yoshevas.
Okay. So what am I doing? I'm giving my order.
What do you think? What's the big difference in your rankings and Jamey's?
Just having, it sounds like I've got Higgins and Mitchell higher than Tesla.
Okay. What about Dortch?
But here's the thing, and you mentioned it. Just the supply of receivers that are available is huge. So 30 seconds ago, I said Mike Evans is the priority unless you need somebody for this week. How about this? Maybe Evans should be the priority anyway, because, all right, maybe you miss on Mitchell and Dortch and Higgins, but you can still get Vele or Tesla. You can get a Packers wide receiver. I'm sure there's going to be interest in Dontavian Wicks. I talked to a friend yesterday who was chomping at the bit to get Dontavian Wicks on his fantasy team. He's in a 16-team league because he had a big game on Thursday and he thinks that it'll continue. I don't agree. Yeah, pretty much every other receiver that we've talked about, I'd rather have than Dontavian Wicks, but I get it. And there's going to be people that go after that. And there's still other receivers, even after all these guys, that you could make the case for. You have to squint a little hard to say, okay, maybe there's something with Josh Downs. Maybe there's something with Jerry Jeudy because he's got the Titans this week. It's the grossest thing I think I've ever said, but there could be something there. Mooney is still out there in a bunch of leagues. So maybe prioritizing Evans, whether you need him or not this week, maybe that's a direction you can go in, especially if 12-team league, 4 teams are out of it. They're not going to bother doing ad drops. Maybe you can get 2 of the top 3 or 4 receivers on the list.
Jamey, anything to add?
No, I mean, again, it's kind of been the theme of the season that these guys have popped up and done some things for a week or 2, and then they tend to disappear, unfortunately, and then they at times pop up again, like Kayshon Boutte last night, for example. So we're going to see, some of these players. The thing I would caution against, and why I have them a little bit lower in Mitchell and Vele, is they've been getting targets, and they finally had a decent game. And you're talking about questionable quarterback situations, unquestionable players. And so like Higgins is worth investing in because you've seen a body of work now for about 5 or 6 weeks. And I think what his role is. Like, he's playing the second most snaps of the wide receiver position group. So he's playing ahead of Kirk. He's playing ahead of Noel. And he's, getting chances and converting them. He's also sharing the field with Nico Collins and Dalton Schultz, who are essentially dominating targets. So I think in the case of, like, for me, I'm taking the chance on what the upside for these 1 week situations can be, more so than those other young receivers. Like Higgins, long term, is clearly safer than Dortch, most likely, and certainly Tesla. But for week 14, I like their setups much better because they could be league winning type of guys. You've seen it with Dortch.
Which guys are, sorry, just in case people are lost, saying I like their setups for week 14. They could be league winning, week winning type of guys, whatever. Which guys are you referring to? Dortch?
I'm referring to Dortch and Tesla. So that's why they're second and third for me.
So I agree with you on Dortch. And he's, to me, if you don't want to deal with Evans, or maybe Evans isn't even available, just go get Dortch first and see what happens with Marvin Harrison. And if Harrison ends up playing, then you cut Dortch and you pick up who's ever left, the next best guy at wide receiver. And it could end up being Tesla. That wouldn't be that. I'd be satisfied with that.
Just like to have seen something in the career of Isaac Tesla, before we start him in week 14.
Oh, listen, I think once you if everybody plays this week, the only starter for me in a 2-receiver league is Evans. These other guys are 3-receiver league options at best. So I look at that spot always as, can somebody be a difference maker unless I just have 3 studs? And so in the case of Dortch, he's been solid in the 2 games. One was garbage time, one was great, but you're seeing a quarterback that's throwing the ball consistently 40 plus times. I don't think that changes against the Rams.
No.
In the case of Tesla, I'm attaching him to my team because he's attached to one of the best offenses in football. No matter what you think of Dan Campbell calling plays and some of the stupidity that we've seen certainly last week, like, there's huge upside there. So I totally agree. There's immense downside. There's no floor, but the ceiling could be great, and I'll just piggyback on what Dave was talking about. Yes, he did not get involved last week. This is an entirely different week. They're game planning without St. Brown. They're doing things. It might be Kennedy. Could be targeting the wrong guy. Totally get that. But you're down St. Brown. You're down Laporta. You're down Brock Wright. You're down Khalif Raymond. It's going to be a high-scoring game. The secondary stinks for Dallas. That, to me, is what I'm looking at there, and that's the only thing I'm looking at. So Tesla may be a huge bust, but so maybe Mitchell. The game before, the first 2 games with the Jets, he was terrible. He decided he can catch the ball against the Dolphins, and it worked out. Devon Vele in the first 2 games after Rashichi left was terrible. He decided to catch the ball against Miami. So I don't know. You want to chase that? I hope it works out. I think it could be great. To me, I'm going to go with the better quarterback and the better offense. Okay.
Just seeing another thing about Michael Wilson. If he's available in your league, Michael Wilson is a slam dunk. You go get him. He's just not available in CBS leagues. Who's on tight ends? Jamey, Dave, top 3 tight ends.
Brenton Strange is at the top of the list for me. 10.5 PPR points or more in each of his past 4 full games. Dalton Schultz is second. There's a gap. Harold Fannin is third. Harold Fannin barely makes the threshold for us. He's available in 36% of CBS leagues.
And if Dalton Kincaid is available and he comes back, you'll be happy to have him against Cincinnati this week.
Yes.
Now it's time for coverage you can count on, sponsored by Nationwide. Jamey, give me a DST to stream this week.
Yeah, even though you should be adding Tyler Shuck, you also should be adding the Buccaneers DST. And their schedule the rest of the way is pretty favorable as well. So they've been spotty at times. They've had some big games at times this season. But I think just taking a chance on the team facing the Saints is the best way to go.
Okay. You have the other DSTs, Buccaneers, Commanders. They got Minnesota. The Dolphins have been doing pretty well defensively. They're at the Jets, and the Chiefs get Houston. Also, we should mention, if you don't need a DST this week, if you've clinched the playoffs, then you may have a bye, whatever. But whenever your first playoff matchup is, look for DSTs that week. Look at week 15, look at week 16. Don't even bother with week 14 if you don't need one this week. All right. That was coverage you can count on, sponsored by Nationwide. Who are the kickers that we're going to stream?
Evan McPherson, he's been fantastic in his last 2 games. And, if the Bengals continue to move the ball like they probably will with Joe Burrow and struggle in the red zone like they did against the Ravens, we could see another huge game. 24 fantasy points last week, depending on your league scoring, but 36 points in his last 2 games. Harrison, is it Mevis?
Yes, Mevis and
Mevis. Shut up, Mevis.
I had made that joke yesterday. Mevis gets the Cardinals. They've been very forgiving to opposing kickers and allowing points. Riley Patterson and Mevis both coming off games where they had multiple field goals. And I just think Fairbairn's always going to be consistent in in the top 12 range. So tough matchup at Kansas City, but still, you should pick them up.
Team name Tuesday on a Tuesday. Mevis and Butker.
Dude.
Wow, you guys are sharing the same brain.
I
Is that
just
what you
said
had?
it. I said it like 30 seconds ago, but I know you didn't hear it because
I didn't hear it. Obviously, I didn't hear it.
Under Jamey. But yeah, I did come up with, I did say that yesterday. Yes. Mevis and Butker.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm in good
job.
company.
High five.
I'm sorry I didn't hear you 30 seconds ago.
The FFT Open, by the way, the top 8 seeds advanced to that top 8 teams from week 16 advanced to week 17. So 24 teams make it to week 16. They set their lineups independently. They're all in different leagues. And then the top 8 highest scoring teams from week 16 advanced to week 17. Did you guys make the playoffs?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, me either. Dave had a heartbreaking collapse.
I was 6-1. I lost 6 in a row. The first 3 losses were by 5 points or fewer each.
Oh man.
And then injuries completely crushed my team, and I got blown out by like 15 plus points in my last 3 losses. I'm out. It sucks. It hurts. Yeah. Not proud. Not a proud morning.
You lose those games by less than 5 points, your team's confidence just goes in the tank. That's what happened there. So you got it. Bad coaching.
Well, it's an immediate reflection, right? That's a reflection on lineup decisions more than anything else.
Yeah.
If I could find one receiver, I love my chances.
Yeah, we just named like 6.
Yeah, but they're all well, first off, I've been carrying Evans on IR spot because I picked him up after he was dropped.
So
Somebody dropped Terry McLaurin a couple weeks ago, so I picked him up. So hopefully he's going to be the guy that carries me. But I lost Garrett Wilson. Zay Flowers has been terrible. I'm trying to think who my other starter was. Maybe Metcalf, terrible. Like this, but just got Bucky Irving back, and I have Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs, and Bucky Irving.
Whoa, let's go.
That could be the difference maker there.
That'd be great. All right. We're going to take a break. By the way, Jamey is the commissioner of our IDP league, 5 IR spots in the IDP league. We'll be right back. On
IDP is different. I would definitely say 5 in an IDP league, 100%. And Dynasty as well. But in redraft, if I have 5 in the FFT league, that will change.
No, keep it. All right. We'll be right back.
Next year will change.
Hi. Novocaine?
Novocaine! Novocaine is now streaming on Paramount Plus.
You're gonna love this.
Oh, you're strong! It's wildly entertaining and an absolute blast.
I'm in.
Novocaine, rated R, now streaming on Paramount Plus.
Speaking of bad beats, I had a game last night, which if I won, I'd still be the 1 seed. If I lost, I'd fall to the 3 seed. Still gonna make the playoffs, but lost by 0.6 points.
Ooh.
With Stephon Diggs. I had Diggs down 5 and lost.
Yeah, that was only played 48% of the snaps. That was terrible.
Yep.
But I don't know how everybody else feels, but I feel like there's been way more of those types of games this year in fantasy than in the past. I've talked about before. There was a week earlier this season. I lost a game by 0.04 and I won a game in a different league by 0.04. And
I've had a lot.
I had countless wins and losses by like 5 points or fewer all year long. It's been crazy.
You mentioned our IDP league. It's 28-man rosters, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I tied Alfredo Brown in the decimal scoring league.
Oh, a decimal. Holy moly. All right, let's get on with it here, and let's talk about the shallow league, guys. We've kind of done this already, so I don't think we need to be too repetitive, but Jacoby Brissett, interesting about Brissett, if he's still available, Jamey, he does have the Rams and the Texans. So do you still think that he can continue this streak of 20-plus fantasy points every week in his next 2 matchups, home against the Rams, at Houston?
This week, yes. And we'll see what happens after this week. But I think just based on volume, he's just been throwing the ball so much, and how this game should probably unfold. Rams coming off a loss, but Stafford's still very much in the MVP race and probably going to throw the ball a lot. We get the shootout that we're hoping for, which has been what's benefited Brissett so much. So if this was everybody available, no teams on a bye, he probably is outside the top 12. For me, he's inside the top 10.
So who would you rather have if you're just going to pick up one? Trevor Lawrence, Jacoby Brissett, or Jaden Daniels?
So this comes down to probably, am I in the playoffs or need to win this week? Because Jaden Daniels has the most upside of that trio. But Brissett has just been playing so well. So you mentioned weeks 14 and 15, I believe week 16 and 17 is good for Brissett too.
He's got Atlanta and Cincinnati.
So
Don't know
you
if
get to
said
the
that
championship game with Brissett. Like, that's amazing.
All right. How about running back?
Lawrence, I think, is good this week. I just don't. I don't know what to expect from the Colts defense at this point without Sauce Gardner there. The secondary that was looking like it was going to be amazing. I think Trevor will still be okay, but he's just outside the top 12.
Okay, shallow league running backs. We haven't even said Devin Neal's name yet, but let's say Bam Knight, Devin Neal, Jordan Mason, and Chuba Hubbard are all available, Jamey. How would you prioritize Bam Knight, Devin Neal, Jordan Mason, Chuba Hubbard?
Mason would be one, just with the hope that he starts this week, and then their schedule is amazing. Like, imagine if JJ McCarthy was playing well. My goodness, it'd be fantastic for Minnesota. But Mason would be one with the chance of Jones maybe missing this week or maybe being out for an extended period of time. Again, he's day to day, so we just don't know. And then it would be Bam Knight second, Devin Neal third, probably Chuba third, Devin Neal fourth, just because I think Neal got a lot of work last week against Miami, didn't do a lot with it in terms of his production. 14 carries, 47 yards, 3 catches. Like, he's going to be a flex at best. I think if Chuba is going to be in a timeshare with that offense, how they used both guys last week, like, Chuba could still be a number 2 running back. So like Chuba slightly better, but it would be Mason and Knight, the top 2.
Okay, and then wide receivers: Alec Pierce, Garrett Wilson, Christian Watson, Chris Godwin. Got some big names there. Who'd you rather stat? I guess it have to be Evans because he's actually making progress. We don't know if Garrett Wilson's even going to come back. I haven't seen anything on him. But if you look at Alec Pierce, Christian Watson, Chris Godwin, how would you rank them?
I would go Pierce, Watson, Godwin.
Okay, and then tight end, we've got Dalton Kincaid, Juwan Johnson. Johnson's at Tampa Bay this week. Kincaid gets the Bengals. Kyle Pitts with Seattle, but it's a great matchup, but maybe Drake London coming back. Zach Ertz coming off a 10-catch game. He's got Minnesota.
18 targets his last 2 games.
Yeah, and with McLaurin back, I mean, how many pass attempts did Mariota have? Like 40? 50, right? 50. And 10 carries. A lot of usage for Mariota. Anywho, who
against Denver, no less.
Yeah, who are the best shallow league tight ends?
So you got to go Kincaid 1 just with the matchup, and he was playing very well before he got hurt. 4 of his first 6 games, I think it was 11 PPR points or more. So got off to a good start before the injury, and the matchup against Cincinnati is just worth it on its own. I would take a chance on Pitts next, just with Drake London not coming back, if that's the case, and then the matchup against Seattle, or I guess you go Juwan Johnson next, just because of what he's done, his body work. Only 4 games this season under 10 PPR points, and I know he didn't do it last week, but still got 9 targets, and that's something you could say, okay, they're still trying to get him involved. So Juwan Johnson would be second. Probably it's tough between Pitts and Ertz, just because I don't want to be chasing that big game from Ertz against Denver. But Definitely. This matchup this week is not bad against Minnesota, and you look ahead to the rest of the schedule for him. So it probably should be Ertz over Pitts, just because of London does return. So I'm talking myself through this. So I'll go Kincaid 1, Johnson 2, Ertz 3, Pitts 4.
Where does Brenton Strange fit in?
I would probably put Strange second ahead of Juwan Johnson in the group.
There's a little bit of a concerning number for Brenton Strange. He's had a target share over 18.4% only once this season. He's not earning a lot of targets.
But now Parker Washington may miss some time.
Yeah, but before, like, there was no Jacoby Myers. There was no Brian Thomas Jr.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, to say there was no Jacoby Myers was the first start of the season for him. He played 4 games. In 3 of those, he had Travis Hunter.
I mean, that's fair. But, all right, he's not earning a lot. He has an 18.6%.
Yeah, it's look, you got lucky with the touchdown last week, in terms of his production, 3 catches, 45 yards. The week before, when Trevor Lawrence had to throw the ball, it was 5 catches for over 90 yards, So I think you're just looking at somebody who's going to be a part of this offense that is tight end friendly. And his last 4 healthy games, he's been over 10 PPR points. So it still feels like it's a good spot to be in, especially the way that Trevor Lawrence is throwing the ball to him.
He also,
sorry.
Yeah, no, I was getting to that. Strange has a better matchup than Schultz this week. Strange has the Colts. Schultz is at Kansas City. Teams are so bad in Arrowhead. So that's if you're looking for a differentiator between those two. I know we're kind of off the shallow league topic here. And honestly, I feel like I'm wasting time, Dave, because none of these guys are available in my league. Dalton Kincaid. Meh. Who's in the deep leagues, Dave?
Mariota quarterback is available in 72% of leagues, but if you need a quarterback in those deep leagues, you're not going to like what you see. Or it's Tyrod Taylor, it's Tyler Shuck, it's Trey Lance, who's 99% available. What happens if Justin Herbert can't play? There's probably some other stiffs that are available in much deeper leagues. Running back, Devin Singletary is 61%, Michael Carter 89%. And Jaleel McLaughlin's at 65%. Keaton Mitchell's at 90%. Maybe there's a little bit more run for him if Justice Hill is out again, although Rasheen Ali ended up taking a lot of that workload away from both Henry and Keaton Mitchell last week. So it's really bad at running back if you're looking for a running back in a deeper league. We talked about a lot of the wide receivers that are available. Dortch would headline it at 83% available. Adonai Mitchell, 95% available. Tesla, 95% available. Devon Vele, 99% available. And then at tight end, Colby Parkinson didn't have a good game last week, but before that, he was on a touchdown run. Arizona's terrible against tight ends. So maybe you can go back to Colby Parkinson. Isaiah Likely had an uptick in usage. He's available in 83% of leagues.
I'm glad you mentioned Michael Carter because you talked about Tyjae Spears earlier as, 8-ish PPR fantasy points. Well, that's what Michael Carter is also giving you is they just throw the ball so much and he'll get, 4 catches or so. So it is tough for running backs in deep leagues. All right. Last night's game did not go the way I thought it would. I forgot about special teams. Big part of football. New England 33, Giants 15.
Just one more tight end for the shallow leagues. Gunnar Helm has 6 catches each of his last 2 games.
Okay, there you go. And one more. No, I was just going to say Michael Tinsley is a guy. Mitchell Tinsley. Michael, you're telling me that there's not a Michael Tinsley in the world, Dave?
I don't think he's going to get you any fantasy points.
Mitchell Tinsley had 9 targets last week. For the Bengals.
Yeah, and he scored the week before. Look, between him and Yoshivas, you might get one good receiver.
There you go. All right, New England 33, Giants 15. We're gonna do 2 minutes on this game here. And I think it should all be on. No, I'm shortchanging the game. All right, so Dave, Giants question for you.
Great.
I felt that Jackson Dart looked a little bit neutered last night. I didn't love it. Should we? And you had brought that up. Is he going to be the same guy? I don't think they did any design runs that I recall. Drop him or hold him through the bye?
He's droppable. As crazy as that sounds, just because you can find another quarterback potentially. I think it's probably more so in the shallow leagues where it's easier to let go of Jackson Dart and then either bring him back or have another quarterback. He's got the Commanders after the bye, then the Vikings, then the Raiders. That's a pretty darn good schedule. So if you drop him, you better be set at quarterback, either with 2 other guys that you're okay rotating for the fantasy playoffs, or 1 stud.
Okay. And for the Patriots, Jamey, very disappointing usage for Diggs, but also for Travion Henderson. Because he had 11 carries. Ramondre had 12. They've had basically the same amount of touches. They both had 3 catches. Oh, what do you make of the Patriots running backs right now?
Yeah, the runway is not clear anymore. Unfortunately, we thought that we were getting this league-winning type of guy because of the schedule and the way the usage was trending. You had the 2 games without Stevenson. He comes back and he's not as involved as he was. And then, man, when I saw him line up as a starter, I was like, oh, God, please just make this like a token situation. And then he was the primary guy on the first drive, and it just felt like we were set up for disaster in this great matchup. You got lucky, I think, with the big run from Henderson at the end and, still a little bit of the involvement in the passing game. But, this was extremely frustrating. So I think if you're viewing Henderson as a guy that's going to save your league, you're probably going to get disappointed. Can he still be a low-end number 2 running back or a flex? I think that's fair. And if you've been holding on to Stevenson, he probably goes in that same range. So it's almost like a poor man's Carolina, as we're looking at, a backfield going into a bye and what they may look like coming off of it. So I'm disappointed. I was hoping that Henderson was going to come out, dominate the snaps. Whatever the outcome was, at least you would see the playing time. And that's the worst case scenario, is that he didn't have a great game, even in the limited touches that he was given.
He was even given the majority of snaps inside the 10. Henderson had. Didn't work out his way.
I-
And
I don't
Ramondre
even
played
feel-
more.
I don't even feel like Henderson. I don't even feel like that stat inside the 10 is one that's going to translate week to week. I think it's just going to be a toss up, and
Down and distance was matter too. Passing downs, he was in there.
Ramondre is going to be the third down.
Ramondre was in there.
apparently.
He was their third down back, 12 of 13.
Yeah, but inside at least the couple that I saw, not looking at the numbers, but he was in there on some third and goal.
And I thought, to myself, like, is Diggs droppable? I don't think so. And he gets the bye, and then you got to hope that he comes back, plays Buffalo. He was amazing against Buffalo last time. He had 146 yards. And Buffalo and Baltimore, the next two games for the Patriots, they play some good teams, and maybe they have to keep Diggs on the field a lot, throw the ball more. So I know I only have him in one league, but I'll probably throw him back in my lineup in a couple weeks and just hope for that magic to come back. Drop-o-meter real quick here. Dallas Goedert, 0 to 10. He's been ice cold.
Does he play the
10.
Giants?
No.
Then he's a 10.
Caleb Williams, 2 games against Green Bay, Cleveland. Those are his next 3 games. Caleb Williams.
I mean, again, look at the quarterbacks we're telling you to go add. So
Right. Yeah.
he's like what Dave said about Dart. I think in shallow leagues you should not drop him. In 12-team leagues or larger, maybe you can get away with it. Or 12 teams or shallow, excuse me, you can get away with it. It's just you're not starting him anytime soon.
Right.
Not with confidence.
Sam Darnold, 88% rostered.
Same rinse, wash, repeat that we just said.
But I'd rather hold on to Dart and Caleb than Darnold.
More upside there. Yeah, they're not going to throw the ball very much.
I don't want to be too focused on the weather, but Caleb is at Green Bay and then 2 home games against Cleveland and Green Bay. Darnold is at Atlanta. It's indoors, then home against Indianapolis and the Rams. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like Darnold's I don't know. I don't know about the weather, but I just been saying it for weeks. Seems like the Bears are really set up to be very run heavy down the stretch.
I mean, you could certainly see a setup where Darnold plays great against the Falcons, and then the Jaguars, let's just say Trevor Lawrence has a huge game against the Colts because of no Gardner there and whatever. And then we fall for it again, and then Darnold comes out and throws the ball 15 times and doesn't have a huge stat line. It's just he's going to be that type of guy. You're never going to have any faith starting him.
He scored less than 7 points in 3 of his last 4 games.
And he's starting to show the flaws again, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. Oronde Gadsden, drop-o-meter, 87% rostered.
Not ready to say that he's a droppable player yet.
I would drop him for Strange and any of the guys that we mentioned in the shallow leagues. So Juwan Johnson, if he's available. Ertz at this point, I would drop him for Ertz with that schedule.
Yeah, don't forget the Chargers. They finished your fantasy season with the Eagles, at the Chiefs, at Dallas, and Houston.
It's not easy.
Yeah. Romeo Doubs.
He's droppable.
I'd wait a week just to see if Jaden Reed doesn't return.
8.
So if Jaden Reed doesn't return, would you be starting Romeo Doubs over Isaac Tesla, Greg Dortch?
No, that's why he's droppable.
Cade Otton.
Droppable.
He's droppable, especially
7.
with Evans coming back.
Right. Like I'd rather have Gadsden at this point.
Rashad White.
I would hold him. I mean, he's we're talking about Michael Carter and Tyjae Spears. Like that's the same type of guy.
But if your waiver wire has Chuba and a bunch of these other running backs on it, it's a shallow league. You can drop Rashad White, especially if it's half or non-PPR.
The other Bucks running back should be dropped, not named Bucky Irving. Sean Tucker, yeah.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I mean, it's not we're saying you're dropping Rashad White for a waiver wire running back. You need a wide receiver this week. Rashad White's one of the guys on your bench.
He's definitely at the tail end of it. And even to say drop Tucker, like we're sitting here and at least I am, pick up these handcuff running backs. If Bucky goes down, it's more so that you're going to trust Tucker than you are Rashad White based on what they've shown us.
Agreed.
Okay, how about Tez Johnson?
100%.
Super kick him onto the waiver wire.
Brock Purdy.
Unless you're a young Shui Koo, you can't kick anything.
He didn't attempt a field goal last night.
My initial reaction to that was Koo took the under on his field goals made.
Yeah, I made that joke this morning too. Wow,
You did? On this show?
No, in a group text. Anywho, Brock Purdy.
No.
I'm paranoid now about that. No, I wouldn't drop Purdy.
Ricky
What's
Pearsall.
his schedule after the bye?
So bye week for Purdy and Pearsall, then Tennessee at Indianapolis, Chicago at home.
Yes, I would try and hang on to Purdy.
Pearsall, I cannot. You have to drop him. I mean,
Yes.
DJ Moore.
Can't start him.
Yes.
Droppable in shallow leagues.
Jordan Addison, 100%. Oh, 90% roster. Jordan Addison.
Droppable.
I mean, this
7.
schedule is so good.
I know it is
but
so
the quarterback
good.
is so bad.
It's so
He doesn't have a
frustrating.
good game with McCarthy yet.
He's not the most droppable player we've said, but he's close.
Are you starting Addison or Dortch or Tesla this week?
Addison in a week with 4 teams on a bye and all these injured wide receivers is barely inside the top 48 for me.
Right.
All right, let's go back through the waiver wire, see if we missed anything. The quarterbacks in shallow leagues, headlined by
That's the type of player that if you have Devon Achane, I would much rather at this point roster Ollie Gordon than Jordan Addison.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Get those handcuffs. And there actually are, we're going to get into it in a second, but there are some widely available handcuffs that may not be that bad that we really haven't talked about. Like Dave mentioned, Keaton Mitchell, the Malik Davis.
Samaje Perine is very interesting.
Samaje Perine, yes.
Jamie mentioned
right.
Ray Davis earlier.
Brissett, Lawrence, Daniels, they're the shallow league guys. Mariota at Minnesota. Do you think he gets to 20 fantasy points if he starts this week?
I think he'll be close. You know, I mean, what he just did against Denver was extremely impressive. Like, he played great against the Broncos.
Yeah.
You know, the play, I know they highlighted this on the broadcast. The play that he did to get the pass interference call on Hufanga was incredible. He had 2 guys draped on him. I know, you know, the interference call was not anything he did, but just to get the throw off was amazing. You know, so he really played great. Like, he deserved to, you know, give them a chance to win. And, you know, unfortunately he didn't make the right throw against Benito, but still with McLaurin back, I thought he threw the ball well at times. You know, Ertz looked great. So I think McLaurin, he's not a top 12 guy for me, but he's certainly the best of the bunch of these guys that we're talking about.
You mean Mariota?
Yeah.
You said McLaurin. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I'm worried about what that game script will be because the Vikings don't exactly put up a ton of points. So the Commanders might not have to put up a ton of points. So he's okay. If you're desperate, if you're desperate and you need a quarterback in week 14, he's the best there is.
The Vikings have allowed 1 touchdown pass in their last 4 games. Pretty crazy, but also I think Jaden Daniels, man, like Jaden Daniels has Dallas in week 17. I wouldn't mind stashing him if he's available.
Sure. Oh, absolutely. He should be stashed. And I think in the case of Mariota, he's run for over 40 yards each of the last 2 starts. So you're going to get that. I don't think this is a 25-point game for him, but I think 18 to 20, he's in that range.
He could be in that range. Sure. Daniels would be obviously the only quarterback worth spending more than 5% of your remaining fab on. Or original fab.
Not Brissett.
Not Brissett. Unless you're really, if it's a deeper league and he's somehow out there, then sure. But
well, he's basically rostered in the same amount of leagues as Daniels.
I get it. You probably need to spend 5% to get Brissett too. I'll take it back.
Brissett's had a better year than Daniels when you look.
Yeah. He's
I totally would put them in the same category.
He's had a better year than almost everyone.
If you're trying to get to the end of the season, Brissett gets the Bengals in the championship.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Sure. All right, guys. So Jamie's top 3 are Mariota, Tyrod Taylor against Miami, Tyler Shuck, who's had 2 good games in his last 3 and has a good matchup, and Trey Lance. Gosh, I hope he doesn't start because I don't think that's going to be good for the passing game.
Trey Lance is only deep super flex or 2 QB league. Like, you cannot consider.
You have to have Herbert. Yeah.
Tua Tagovailoa, I just don't think we can really rely on anymore. The Dolphins are so run heavy, and they should be able to run the ball against the Jets. Running back. So this we've talked a lot about here. You've got Jordan Mason, got Devin Neal, who's I would think you'd have to say at least has a good floor because he'll catch some passes,
yes,
get the touches. Chuba Hubbard,
but we also don't know if Kamara's ruled out yet.
True. Tyler Algier is always a handcuff. Basil Tootin could be a touchdown scorer. Zonovan Knight has 3 or 4 catches in 3 straight games. He has a good role there. He faces the Rams. They are tough. But Donovan Knight. All right, we got Chris Rodriguez. We talked about Devin Singletary is maybe a good long-term play. Of course, we don't know the prognosis for Tyrone Tracy Jr., but hip injury didn't look good. Got carted off. And then there's Blake Corum, Michael Carter, who Dave mentioned earlier, Tajay Spears. Carter and Spears are pretty similar. Jaleel McLaughlin as a handcuff. Samaje Perine as a handcuff who also gets work. Brian Robinson.
14 carries.
Yeah, I know. Wild. And he got Buffalo this week. Great matchup.
Yeah.
Brian Robinson Jr., Ray Davis, Ollie Gordon, Keaton Mitchell, Malik Davis, widely available handcuffs.
So hold on. Knight, Hubbard, Singletary, Rodriguez, Mason, not necessarily that order. They're all in that 5% of FAB group.
I mean, you could argue that they're 15 to 20% of FAB.
It depends how desperate you are for a running back. Sure.
Yeah. All right, wide receivers. The shallow league guys are Alec Pierce, Christian Watson, Garrett Wilson, Chris Godwin. But, Godwin's situation looks a lot less appealing now that Mike Evans could be back as early as this week against the team that he always struggles against, but we'll see. With they obviously don't have Lattimore anymore. But
is it that he has a chance to play this week or a chance to practice this week?
So there was two different things that I read, and then Todd Bowles clarified it yesterday. But going into Sunday, Ian Rappaport wrote on the NFL website in his notes column that Evans could return as early as this week. And I think the way that I took it was return to practice. Then there was a Sports Illustrated story that said Evans could play this week and cited Rappaport's story. So maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but after what Bull said, hoping that he could return to practice this week. My guess would be because of its collarbone, that if looks good in practice, they'll play him. He's not coming back from a knee or a hamstring or anything like that. He's coming back from something that, as long as he's not struggling with anything. He started running last week, at least visibly to there was a report that he was running at practice. So I think there's a chance that he could play this week, but I would think most likely we're looking at week 15.
All right. So in the case that Evans does not play this week, Jamey, Chris Godwin versus Dortch, Tesla, Higgins. How would you rank Godwin?
I might be wrong with Tesla, but Dortch for me is easy over him, and Tesla I would start over him. Again, just looking at what the offense and potential game plan could be. We haven't seen Godwin get a lot of targets yet. If he scored the touchdown last week, maybe it's different. The play where he had the 31-yard reception, to me, that was a little bit of an accident. Baker broke was escaping the pocket, and three guys missed tackles on Godwin, down the sideline. So it was nice to see, and certainly trending in the right direction, but there's still a lot of mouths to feed without Evans there.
Okay. If you want to hear more about the wide receivers, just go to the top three at each position segment where we really broke this down. But just give me your thoughts on Adonai Mitchell and Devon Vele, because they're kind of similar, right? Like Vele has gotten the targets since Shaheed was traded. Mitchell's gotten the targets since he was traded to the Jets. Do you think we can rely on either of these guys?
I think if we're talking about a wide receiver 3, Mitchell would be the one that I would lean toward. Vele is just based on, he's had a bunch of targets in the past couple of games. He looked really good last week. He looked pretty good the week before. Kind of was like dominating on slants and in breaking routes. It's just a question of, is this going to continue to happen in New Orleans? I believe rather, that the Saints are going to be passing a lot. I don't think there's going to be many games where they're playing with a lead. That's part of the problem with Devin Neal. And yeah, maybe he's in line for 6 targets a game, 6+ targets per game, but I don't want to start him. It's kind of like I want to stash Devon Vele just to see what happens. I'm not ready to believe in him yet. So to that end, Tesla, I do have ranked ahead of him, and certainly all the other names that we've talked about ahead of Devon Vele. But Mitchell's a little bit different. He's not as good of a route runner as you'd like to see from somebody in their second year in the NFL. And we know that there's questions about his hands because he's had a bunch of drops and a couple of dopey plays. But I actually thought last week, like in addition to really good speed, he had good awareness and good adjustment to off-target throws from Tyrod Taylor. I am thinking the Jets will be in a bunch of games where they have to throw. I like the matchup for Mitchell this week. So I could kind of buy into him as a number 3 receiver. I would not start him over Higgins. I would not start him over Dortch if MHJ is out, but I would start him over Tesla because I think that there will be more opportunities for him to, more targets, more catches, and potentially some big plays.
just keep in mind with Mitchell, it's kind of the theme of what we talked about with these receivers. Who were we talking about last week as a waiver wire ad?
Well, it was Mechie is one of them.
That's the reason. And
Sure.
again, this is just one of those situations where Mechie did not have the good game. Mitchell had the good game. I know Mitchell's had the targets the last few weeks. And then if you're just looking long term, Garrett Wilson could be back in week 15.
That's
so
true.
If Garrett Wilson comes back, like, Mitchell's irrelevant.
Right. And there's a bunch of if scenarios for a ton of these wide receivers. I mean, how many have we named where there isn't an if scenario? I think
Sure.
Higgins might be the only one. I mean, technically, Vele counts as one that doesn't have an if scenario. There isn't somebody coming to take his job away.
Well, the if is that he's just not that good.
Right. But boy, did he look good. He was my favorite film that I saw from these, Johnny come lately wide receivers. I guess waiver wire receivers this week. His film was my favorite of them all. Evans, obviously Pierce, Watson, Higgins, Dortch. To me, they're all 5% plus fab guys.
The other, the other guy who's got a situation where a player's out and maybe is Andre Yoshevus and Mitchell Tinsley. Such a stickler for first names on this show. So Higgins may not play this week. All right. How about tight ends? You got Dalton Kincaid. You got Juwan Johnson. You've got Pitts and Ertz. We like Ertz better than Pitts. Jamey was kind of talking that out earlier. Darren Waller also available. And he didn't play. He only played, he played less than 50% of the snaps, I think. So hopefully they ramp him up. That's kind of what they did the first time he was activated. So if he can start playing more snaps, that'd be great. But Brenton Strange versus Dalton Schultz. You guys both have Strange ahead.
Yep.
Because of matchup.
For this week, yeah.
Yeah. And actually, Schultz has some pretty tough matchups rest of season, except for Arizona next week. Schultz at Kansas City, Arizona, Las Vegas, and the Chargers. 3 of those teams are currently top 7 against tight ends, whereas Strange has the Colts twice in the next 4 games. So that could be good. Harold Fannin Jr., though, I don't know if we've really mentioned him. This guy has a 26.8% target share in his last 2 games. He runs basically all the routes, and no one else comes close. Njoku is being phased out. So Tennessee's not bad against tight ends either, but that's his matchup this week. But, man, Fannin Jr. is another good option there.
Scored a touchdown in bad weather against, not the best 49ers defense, but clearly it's, in my opinion, better than Titans.
When is the last big game? I'm looking it up as I'm typing it. Like Fannin had 11.3 PPR points. It's his best game in his last 4. I feel like that's kind of his ceiling as long as Shadur's the quarterback.
But he's still been 8.4 PPR points or more in 4 of his last 5. So the floor has been right around that range. Like for me,
Sure.
I always look at 8 or 9 points. It's like if I get that,
You're okay with that in full PPR? Yeah, that's fine, I guess. I look for double digits.
If he's going to
I hope everybody does. I just think, if you're talking about a guy that says as involved as he is and as talented as he is, like you can get that as the base of what you're, hoping is the start of something potentially good.
Yeah, listen, Sanders has thrown 45 passes in 2 games. So he's got Fannin is a 27% target share. You get a 35 passing game. I don't think it's going to happen against Tennessee, but you get 35 pass attempts at some point, and then we could be talking about a real ceiling. Gunnar Helm was mentioned. Isaiah Likely coming off a good game, but that was the Bengals.
Their schedule is great.
I know, but he does have the Bengals in 2 weeks. And then Colby Parkinson
gets. Steelers are a great matchup.
The Steelers were a great matchup. In their last 5 games, only one tight end scored more than 8.6 fantasy points, and that includes Tyler Warren. It sort of includes Arondé Gadsden. He left with an injury. All right. And then any interest in TJ Hawkinson or Darnell Washington? I want Darnell Washington to be a thing. So
I want Washington to be a thing too. I mean, my gosh, they need anybody to help that offense. But no, you can't trust him. Hawkinson, I mean, he played Seattle. It was Brosmer, so it's hard to say like it's anything sustainable. The matchup against Washington is good, but not great. So I would overlook, like when we talked about this yesterday, I said, oh, maybe Evan Ingram and maybe TJ Hawkinson just coming off the games that they just had. But, they just had good matchups and kind of spike games out of nowhere.
I am pretty sure Hawkinson has yet to have a game over 10 PPR points with McCarthy.
And that's including a touchdown.
Yes.
I mean, if Justin Jefferson can barely get there.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, folks. That's it for. Yeah, that's it. DSTs: Bucks, Commanders, Dolphins, Chiefs. Bucks, Commanders, Dolphins, Chiefs. That's Jamey's order. Kickers: Evan McPherson. You might want to throw $2 fab on him. Harris and Mevis and Butker. Riley. Oh, I didn't even realize that both of their first names are Harrison. Mevis and Butker. Oh, my
Sure,
goodness.
it's not Michael.
Riley Patterson and Kaimi Fairbairn. Long waiver wire show. Sorry, I hope it was helpful. We will talk to you tomorrow. We'll play a game tomorrow. We'll do something fun tomorrow. We'll be right back. We'll be back tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today.